The last time that the Diksha was given, we have two kinds of Dikshas, the 21-day process and the 5-day process. In the last 21-day process, I think those who did not make it were about 4 or 5 in number, I think. Now, these people could not make it for specific reasons, because one had been a drug addict. He had taken a lot of drugs, and so he could not make it. And the other had done something to his body, so he could not make it. The other 3 were suffering from certain strong and strange concepts. So they did make progress, but they did not make it.
Yes.
So if they come for a second time, they will definitely make it. The others who did not make it were in the 5-day process. Actually, this were extended. Almost everybody will make it. So we are trying to see if we can extend this 5-day process in future, that those who do not make it stay back, and then we complete it.
I see.
So some adjustments are being made. And also they'll be very successful if the numbers are more. We are working with very small numbers. The ideal number would be around 250 or so. That's the best number to have.
Oh, really?
Yes, then maybe only a few will not make it. So these few must be worked against separately. We must see what the mental blocks are.
I see.
Most often it is fear of enlightenment itself which becomes a block, or lack of confidence. Otherwise people make it quite easily.
Now, I must fit into that category, or some of them. And surely I went through the process and did have some very awakening experiences on the first day of the Diksha, and had a sense of its potency, power, and possibility based on what happened inside me. Then that experience of myself as such began to taper off. So, but if we're talking about an energetic and physical surgery, this case, like myself and with others, you sometimes say that it would take days, weeks, or sometimes months. But that in fact, based on the Diksha itself, the enlightenment will come.
Normally, after the Diksha is taken, its lifetime is about 6 months. So in the following weeks and the following months, it could happen. But the only drawback here is if you're subjected to too much of stress, then it dies down. But let us say if you were to lead a very tranquil, calm life, especially near water bodies like lakes and rivers, the process will restart and complete itself. But then if you are going to live in a city like New York with its pollution and stress levels, it could become very difficult. Even there it is possible if somehow you could change your mental perception and you would enjoy the crowds of New York and enjoy New York life, still the process would continue. But if you become judgmental and if you start condemning aspects of that life, then the process stops. But otherwise the best thing would be for those who fail in the 5-day process, take another 4 or 5 days, get the mucus out, and the Diksha completes itself.
I see.
For example, for you, what we are going to do is we're going to try to get the mucus out. Then the Diksha will be triggered, and you will probably fly back enlightened. It has a lot to do with the mucus. It is in the body is in an eliminating mode. The sensory cells are very sensitive. Then they really pick up the Diksha much faster. And the Diksha which is gone and begins to act. So the best way to make the cells active is to drain the mucus out of the body. For which of course Ayurveda has got several lehyams it has got. It's got what are called lehyams and kashayams, various juices are there. They start eliminating the mucus in a particular way. And the moment that starts, the Diksha begins to become very active.
I see.
When the numbers are more, the Diksha power also is more. Therefore, it will overcome the mucus problem then. And because the Diksha power can be more without any danger if the numbers are more. So it has an inbuilt intelligence. So if the crowd is 1 million people, then they can have lots of mucus, no problem. The power that is developed is very, very high. It will cut through the mucus without causing danger to the person.
I see.
But the numbers are a key. The other thing also, it would be more effective if in case we were to do this in their own countries. Because when they come to a strange land, there's an amount of anxiety, which is also telling on the people, no? Whereas for the Indians, it's much, much easier because they are in their own country, no? So they're far more relaxed.
Yes.
When you come down from another country, there's a certain amount of anxiety is there.
Yes.
So maybe in future, let us say Cristobal is there, if he were to be doing it in Mexico, it probably could be much easier than coming all the way down to India and something happening here.
Sure, I understand.
And if it were in Mexico, the crowds could be much larger, so making the whole thing much easier.
Yes, yes.
Similarly, let's say tomorrow, if you were to conduct in New York, with a big population of New York, it would be much easier.
Yes, yes, yes.
The ideal thing would be to do it in their own countries, through their own people. So the whole thing is to train up people from those countries. All those people who come here, we expect them to become leaders in their own countries. Because in this Dharma, everybody is a leader. Therefore, there are no leaders, in fact. Because everybody is a leader, where is the leader?
Exactly.
So, and they should do it.
Right.
So this is the preparatory phase, where from all over the world they're coming, and they are making it here. They'll go back, and soon they'll start it in their own countries.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I believe that the self is the disease. That when you are born as a child, you do not have a self. It comes into existence at a particular time, and I believe if all things go well, it should also cease. But that doesn't happen. So if that does not happen, you are deceased. So my function here, and those of the people who have become enlightened, is to remove that disease, remove the self. And then you'll find once again you're in your natural state. And in that natural state, there could not be any conflict. That is what it is to be truly human. To be truly human is to be an individual. No? There's no more divisions inside you. There's no conflict.
And yet there remains an individual.
And yet it remains an individual.
With his or her own unique
His own unique
expression.
Yes. Each one is unique. You will not be able to compare two people. If there are 6 billion people, there are 6 billion uniquely enlightened people. Each one is unique. That's the whole beauty about it.
Yes.
It is no such thing as mass enlightenment. It could be done for the masses, but then each one is unique.
Yes, within the mass.
Within the mass.
Right. It's sort of, you remind me of the whole idea of beautiful gardens.
Yes.
Where God made sure there were so many different colors and so many different shapes and fragrances to the gardens. And you can't compare one flower to another.
Cannot compare.
You're thankful that there's one of each at least, you know.
Enlightenment cannot be compared. It could be so different from between two individuals. A couple comes and the husband becomes enlightened in one way and the wife in another way. You cannot compare. Yet they'll be the best of friends.
Yes, 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 yes.
True friendship will be discovered in their lives.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Very true. That word is very appropriate in a very organic way. Because it's so tangible it is. It's no mental construction, you know. It's something very real, it is, that connection.
You also described the state of enlightenment as truly our inheritance and truly our natural state. Distinct from the diseased state that we have taken on as normal.
Yes.
And this is one of the problems. I mean, this is the central problem.
To have a self is to be diseased, and the humanity just as self is a diseased humanity, and all that is born out of the self, whether it's economics or politics or your medicine, everything is diseased.
Yes.
It's a miracle that we have survived so long.
Oh, God. I say the same thing.
Yes. We have found that a lot of people who are enlightened are actually free of long-standing chronic ailments. So we do find a remarkable improvement in health also, in both the physical and mental health.
So
these are the side benefits, the spin-offs.
So there's something in the surgery, in the
Yes.
energetic, physical
Yes.
manifestation of enlightenment
Yes.
that does, what is it, how would you say, what does it do to the cells, for instance? To the cells of the body.
Yes, they become more sensitive. And with their becoming more sensitive, the whole body becomes more healthier. That also happens.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting.
And because you can experience nature very differently, the senses are functioning at a higher efficiency. So it's a beautiful world that you live in.
Yes. Yes.
It has to be experienced.
Now, what would be, this is a difficult question, but what would be the difference between, let's say, the beauty, I have a self,
Yes,
admittedly,
Yes.
and I have a deep appreciation of nature,
Yes.
of love,
Yes.
of beauty.
Yes.
I'm a Taurus. These things
yes.
just occur
Yes.
naturally.
Yes.
And I also have a sense of oneness oftentimes as well.
Yes.
But I'm not enlightened.
Yes.
How would you compare
Yes.
the difference of someone's experience
Yes.
like this
Yes.
with a true appreciation of things
Yes.
in the unenlightened and then the enlightened
Yes.
state?
Actually, there is no comparison at all. The two are totally
I should have figured.
different. When you say this mountain is beautiful, it's a comment being made by your mind. It is the description and not the described. But when you're enlightened, you become the mountain, which is totally different. The way the mountain would appear to you is different. It's something which has to be experienced. It cannot be described. Now, all this appreciation you're talking about, love and beauty, is more a description. It is not the thing. That is the basic difference. They're very, very different.
I see. I see. That will be, well, I'm eager to be the mountain.
Yes.
I'll put it that way. In fact, you also describe, and maybe you could comment on this, that people actually don't even start living
Yes.
until they have experienced enlightenment.
Yes.
Is this kind of what you mean when you say
Exactly,
that?
yes. Because once you become enlightened, the senses function differently. Because you do not have a self, you are freed of the interference of the mind. So without the mind interfering, you're experiencing life through the senses, which is a totally different experience, which I call living. So the first time you really begin to live, and one can't really describe it. One has to experience it. And once you start doing it, you have no problems on this planet. There could be problems, but they never affect you.
So there's a different emotional relationship
Yes.
to problems. or-
Yes. Even your enemy looks like your friend. You can't think badly about him, and you can't harm him. You know he's your enemy, but love pours out. It just happens.
Interesting.
Suppose you see somebody beating a dog, you experience the pain of the dog. So you do not come from a mental concept, oh, he's beating the dog, let's help the dog. No. It's not from some mental concept or belief. You experience the pain the dog is experiencing. So you just act from that. You don't think and act. It's spontaneous action. That's all. You live in the moment.
So what happens to the past?
The past no more interferes except when you want it to help you. Like with a technical problem, you want to set right this camera, the past comes out and helps you. Then immediately this is into the background. You do not keep thinking about the camera. It's cut. It's over.
Yes.
So the past becomes your slave. It is at your beck and call. You make use of it. Right now, it is making use of you. When you are not enlightened, when you are not living, the past has possessed you. It is making use of your life for its survival. Because it functions like an entity. So your life has been mortgaged to the past. It could be a belief, it could be a dogma, it could be a concept, it could be anything. It has gripped you, It's holding you in its grip. You are being made use of. You have identified yourself with those concepts. It could be a Marxist concept, it could be any kind of concept. It just takes hold of you. And
So
you're gone.
what you're saying really is the same, what you're saying about the past is also true then about the mind.
Yes.
The mind is there as an instrument for your use.
Yes, that's all. It cannot make use of you. Right now it is making use of you. You are not living. The past is living. When you're talking to a person who's not enlightened, you're talking to his past. All those mental formations, those concepts, that conditioning, that belief, all that.
Right.
The person is not there.
And yet, each individual, when he is or she is born, comes enlightened.
Yes.
So there is a memory.
Yes.
There's something in the body that
Yes.
remembers
Yes.
that state.
Yes.
Would you describe what you're doing as awakening that memory? Is that it,
yes.
or is
in
it
a way
different?
you can talk that way. I'm awakening it.
Is that an accurate
Yes.
way of
Though
describing?
we might not use the word memory,
Okay.
because it is no memory, It is just that living, an act of living, how the body is designed to function. But you can say the program is in the DNA. In that sense, we can call it as a DNA memory,
Okay.
not a psychological memory.
Yes. It's physical.
Physical it is.
And that brings up a question which has to do with a lot of the clearing processes that go on here. They, what you call samskara shuddhi, of the clearing of emotions and patterns and suppressed emotions and all of that. If we are, as a humanity, ready to receive the diksha and be enlightened, what then is there a necessary clearing that needs to take place?
But this is only for the early people, the 60,000 I'm talking about. It's like starting the motor. Once this is started, you do not need a samskara shuddhi. You need nothing, in fact, is going to be that fast and that easy. That is why I often refer to these people as the warriors who are going through all these difficult things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not required in the future.
I see. Okay. So one of the other things that really distinguish you as a teacher is your readiness and your openness in discussing the shadow,
Yes.
one's dark side, so to
Yes,
speak.
yes.
This is something that many people don't like to talk about
Yes.
or deal with. Could you just comment on the role of that in the
Yes.
enlightenment process?
See, this comes from the basic understanding that we do not look at things as a good and bad, or the holy and the unholy,
Mm-hmm.
But to us, it's the picture is complete only if you include the darker side. So without the darker side, the brighter side doesn't exist. So we belong to a tradition here where we do not judge things as the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's complete as a whole. And therefore we feel that you are natural and normal only if you have a good look at that side. If that's going to be put under the carpet, it will soon start stinking. That's what most people do.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, confronting it, embracing it, loving it, actually purifies you. You become more complete.
Mm-hmm.
There's no conflict. The problem is not the darker side, the problem is the conflict.
Mm-hmm. That one will argue with oneself or
Yes.
by
That
not
it is
settling.
there, that's all,
Yeah.
And you must also understand that in our teaching, there is no such thing as the individual. There is just humanity. That is humanity's darker side. Because we even know how to transfer our thoughts and part of the mind from one to the other. It's all transferable. So it is all there in human consciousness. So if there is a small little village, and if a lot of people have frustration, then it could break out in one person and he could become a maniac. Now he's becoming a maniac and the rest are responsible for that. On the other hand, we put him in jail and we hang him, not realizing that we as a community made him into a maniac. So that's our understanding,
Yes.
We do not think of an individual as something separate. It can't exist for us. You cannot speak of an atom in the universe saying this atom is independent of the universe. Such an atom does not exist.
Right.
So we cannot talk of somebody as being a true individual in that sense of the term.
Exactly. As separate from.
Separate from.
Not possible.
Yes.
It's physically
Yes.
impossible.
Yes.
What you're saying accords with what we have described in the West as systems theory.
Systems theory,
It's
yes.
that kind of idea.
Yes.
And that applies socially
Socially,
as well as in
Yes.
medicine or what have you.
everywhere.
It's seeing everything as part of a matrix, if you
Yes,
will.
exactly. That's how we view it, you know. So the darker side belongs to the system as such,
Yes.
to borrow your
Yes.
And
Exactly.
therefore we don't condemn it. It is just there. How could you condemn it? It is there.
That's right. That's right.
What is there cannot be condemned. It has to be seen.
That's right. That's right.
And that seeing does all the magic. Something very wonderful happens.
Yeah.
And that is why in India you'll find we don't talk so much about the evil, you know. We are quite comfortable with it.
I see, right. You have made friends with it. And
Make friends with it. It is
right.
so.
You know it's there,
Yes.
and you live with
Yes.
it, and yeah,
Yes.
it's very healthy.
Yes.
We have much to learn in the West
Yes.
about that attitude.
Sometimes we have gods who are looking very frightening and sometimes even looking evil. So it is the worship of the evil side in us, you know. We accept it. Yes, it is there.
Yes, yes, yes.
You can't push it.
Right.
I think they would all die a natural death, I think. Because the enlightened person can't understand those teachings anymore. Because the self not being there, he cannot say, I am evil or I am good. It's all equally the same for him. There's no person there to make any comments.
Right.
It is there, that's all.
Right. That's that.
He's not the owner anymore. Negative thoughts pass through him, to the enlightened person. But he wouldn't be blaming himself. It's a negative thought. He could have a murderous thought. He'll say, oh, it's passing through me. That's all. He could have a lustful thought. Oh, it is going there. He no more identifies himself with it. Not that the enlightened person is free of these things. He could go to a certain area where murder has happened or a rape has occurred or something terrible would have happened. As he passes physically to that area, his thoughts pass through him. But he knows they are passing through him.
Yes, yes, yes. So there is this space
Yes.
between the function of the mind
Yes.
and his own being.
His own being.
And he doesn't identify with
Identify.
those thoughts
Yes.
and make them his own. There's
Yes.
no ownership.
There's no
anymore.
ownership. But these things do go through.
Yes, exactly. Because this is the stream of
Yes.
humanity. It's
Mahatma Gandhi one day had murderous thoughts in jail. So he was wondering, how come I have these murderous thoughts? Then he traced it back to the kitchen, and the food that day was cooked by a murderer was going to be hanged the next few weeks or days. And his thoughts had impacted on the food, and Mahatma Gandhi had consumed that food, and he had murderous thoughts.
God.
So that Gandhi, oh, he said so.
That's the nature of the field.
Yes. Once I met a 65-year-old, very spiritual man. He came to me in tears and I said, what's the problem? He said, Bhagavan, yesterday evening I went out for a walk. And for an hour or so, lustful thoughts possessed me. I was wondering, I'm so spiritual and I'm 65 years old, and this possessed me and drove me almost mad. Then I asked him, where exactly did you go for a walk? Then he told me about a spot. And I told him 6 months ago, a boy and a girl committed suicide there. Because they couldn't get married, they committed suicide. I said, that explains it. And he felt immediate relief. In any case, they were there only for an hour or so in him. They passed through him, you know. And because he was not enlightened, he thought they were his thoughts.
Exactly.
And felt very bad about it. He was condemning the evil in him, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful way of describing the phenomenon that we, not you, but we are still caught in. But that will be temporary.